The first episode kicks off with Kitty catching us up on her life. Last semester was a whirlwind. She broke up with Day, realized she had feelings for Yuri, and then got kicked out of Kiss. She thought winter break was her permanent goodbye to Seoul, but thanks to Yuri pulling some strings, Kitty is back and determined to make the most of her second chance. It's a fresh semester, and Kitty 2.0 is all about staying focused and avoiding drama, or so she says. Back on campus, Kitty reconnects with her friend Q and meets Alex and his dad, Professor Lee. Alex shares that he's been staying with his dad over break because the professor has been stressed. Meanwhile, Kitty updates Q about her sisters, wanting details about her Korean experience and her mom. The realization hits: she didn't learn much, flunked her Korean studies, and barely made it through. But this semester she is single, living solo, and ready to reboot. Q teases her for swearing off love just after discovering she's bi. Kitty clarifies she's not becoming a monk. She's open to dating girls, but wants to avoid drama, especially with people in her friend group. The mention of Yuri brings up complicated feelings, but Kitty insists she's trying to move on, armed with a goodbye letter inspired by her sister Lara Jean's advice. Q reflects on his own heartbreak and how Florian's betrayal made it easier to move on, dubbing them both Chaos Queens. Kitty runs into Day and Minho, which brings back awkward memories of Minho confessing his feelings for her on the plane. Back then, she was stunned and brushed it off, but now Minho pretends not to notice her and walks away. Day confides in Minho about his lingering feelings for Kitty, but Minho brushes it off, clearly avoiding the topic. Kitty narrates her resolve to keep things drama-free, but it's easier said than done. Things take a turn when Kitty finds out her new roommates are Yuri and Juliana, Yuri's girlfriend. Yuri seems thrilled, calling it fate, but Kitty is panicking inside because she is nowhere near over Yuri. To top it off, Yuri casually drops that her parents are divorcing, but keeps the mood light, planning a group barbecue for their suite. Kitty reluctantly agrees to join, realizing she is stuck in her worst nightmare. Meanwhile, Minho vents about his dad, who only seems to reach out when he needs something. Day admits to Q that he is still not over Kitty, while Minho overhears and hides, clearly feeling conflicted. Later, Kitty tries to request a room change, but Professor Lee explains it's not possible due to tuition issues and vacancies caused by the recent cheating scandal. Frustrated, Kitty pivots to asking about her mom, Eve, and learns a cryptic detail about her mom following a boy named Simon to Seoul against her parents' wishes. Kitty's shaken, wondering if she should call her grandmother for answers. At the school assembly, Kitty avoids Yuri and sits with Pravina, a curious and nosy classmate. Meanwhile, Minho's dad makes a dramatic entrance, announcing he is funding a new arts program and stirring up the crowd with a surprise performance. The students are buzzing, but Minho isn't thrilled to see his dad. Day encourages Kitty to talk to Minho and smooth things over, which she agrees to do. Kitty tries to clear the air with Minho, apologizing if she hurt his feelings when she turned him down. Minho, however, insists it wasn't love, just a fleeting crush he's already over. But when he calls out her smile during his confession on the plane, Kitty denies it, claiming it was just a grimace. At dinner, Yuri confronts Kitty about being distant over break. Kitty finally opens up, admitting she is bi, and Yuri is supportive, even claiming she might have inspired Kitty's realization. They agree to lean on each other as friends, though the tension between them is palpable. Juliana, however, doesn't seem thrilled about their closeness. Later, Kitty calls her grandmother to ask about Simon, but Halmoni quickly shuts her down and hangs up, a first for Kitty. Suspicious, Kitty decides to dig deeper into her mom's past, all while juggling her complicated feelings for Yuri. As if her life isn't messy enough, her new roommate Stella drops a bomb. She's interested in Minho and plans to ask him out. Kitty awkwardly encourages her, giving Stella his contact info, though it clearly stinks. In a twist, Stella ends the episode on a secretive phone call, hinting she has her own agenda at Kiss. Episode 2 kicks off with Kitty reading her mom's letter to Q. The letter says, "My world got so much bigger because of you and because of Simon." Kitty tells Q that her mom mentioning Simon has to mean something. She thinks Gina might know something about him, but Gina's off at some wellness retreat without service, so Kitty's stuck waiting. She reflects on how her mom wasn't the perfect daughter she always thought, moving to Korea against her parents' wishes for a guy she loved. To Kitty, this whole thing is making her see her mom as a real person for the first time, and she's determined to track down Simon. Kitty later asks Yuri about any updates from Gina, but Yuri says the retreat is off the grid. Kitty pushes for more info, but ends up waiting for Stella to get back from her date with Mino. Yuri teases Kitty about matchmaking for others and asks when she's going to find someone for herself. When Yuri touches Kitty's arm, Kitty gets flustered, admitting to herself that Q might be right. This is gonna drive her crazy. Meanwhile, Minho tells Kitty after his date that he's not really into Stella. He thinks she's too nice and maybe a little boring. Kitty calls him out, asking if he's just mad because his playboy moves aren't working. Minho denies it, but accuses Kitty of being too interested in his love life. Day jokes that he missed their constant bickering, while Minho complains about cleaning the school as punishment, blaming Kitty for it. Q keeps things light, reminding everyone the punishment could be worse, like taking one of Minho's dad's arts electives. Q, being the track star, has his exemption and is focusing on regionals. Everyone talks about their class schedules, and it's revealed that Day can sing, which surprises Kitty. Later, Day shows off his voice, impressing everyone, including Kitty, who jokes about being karaoke buddies now. On the track team, Jin tries to mess with Q by mocking him during training. Jin's insults escalate to challenging Q for his spot at regionals, which Q is determined to keep. At the same time, Day admits to Q that he's still hung up on Kitty. Q decides they need a night out to clear their heads. At a teen club in Itaewon, Q helps Day navigate flirting, even introducing him as his super straight bestie. Things take a twist when Jin shows up at the club, surprising Q, who realizes Jin might also be gay. Jin even invites Q to dance, leaving Q to process this whole new dynamic. Meanwhile, Kitty goes to the club with Yuri, Juliana, and Pravina. Pravina picks up on the tension and figures out Kitty might still have feelings for Yuri. Kitty denies it but gets flustered when she sees Day and Q there. The girls notice Day is still hung up on Kitty, and he ends up spilling his dramatic love life story to them. Later, Pravina confronts Kitty, saying it's clear she still has feelings for Yuri. Kitty tries to explain, but Pravina decides to leave, realizing the night isn't gonna work out for them. Kitty confides in Q about Yuri's fight with her mom, but Q avoids giving advice, leaving Kitty frustrated. Juliana eventually advises Yuri to open up to her mom, which Yuri does. Gina apologizes for her overprotective behavior and promises to support Yuri if she wants to come out publicly. Yuri tells Kitty the good news, but Kitty realizes Juliana took credit for the advice she wanted to give Yuri herself. Even so, she is happy for Yuri. During a track meet, Kitty discovers that Jin sabotaged Q by turning off his alarms. Determined to help, she fakes a fainting spell on the track, causing a scene and buying Q enough time to make it to the race. Minho panics, rushing to help her, only to be told she is causing a diversion. Despite Q's best efforts, Jin still wins the race, leaving Q frustrated and vowing to swear off boys for the semester. Kitty vents about being stuck watching Yuri and Juliana constantly making out. Unfortunately, Professor Lee overhears and calls out Yuri and Juliana, saying their relationship is against the rules and one of them will need to move out. Yuri and Juliana stare daggers at Kitty as she is left speechless. Episode 3 kicks off with Kitty narrating about how things have been tense since she accidentally let it slip to Professor Lee that Yuri and Juliana are dating. She reassures Juliana it was a complete accident and she had no idea Lee was standing there. Juliana brushes it off, but it's clear the slip-up still lingers in the air. Kitty gets a text from Pravina and admits to Juliana that she's worried about messing things up with her the night at the club. Juliana teases her about ignoring Pravina while obsessing over Yuri, but Kitty defends herself, saying it was because Yuri was upset, something Juliana helped fix with her advice. Kitty even confesses she is still hoping Pravina will be her first kiss with a girl. Meanwhile, Day talks to his dad, worried about how much he works. Day ends up singing along to the radio, and his dad comments on how good he is, noting that Day must get it from his mom. Later, Day and Yuri catch up. Yuri mentions living at home isn't so bad, though she misses dorm life, and Juliana. Day asks if her dad was upset about her moving in with her mom. Yuri admits he was furious, but adds that living with her mom has been good overall. She misses Juliana but trails off before finishing her thoughts. Elsewhere, Mr. Moon asks his son Minho if he's decided on the ski trip for the long weekend, hoping for some one-on-one time skiing like when they used to do. Minho corrects him, saying he's thinking of Junho, not him, and that he already has plans with Stella. Stella chimes in, asking if Minho's dad isn't doing a Solal family gathering. He explains all his siblings are busy, leaving him as his dad's last option, but he's not interested in spending the holiday being tortured. Stella tries to encourage him to give it a chance, but Minho brushes it off. At school, Alex announces there won't be a class time capsule this year due to budget cuts. Mr. Moon jumps in with a surprise. He's hosting a student talent showcase at the end of the semester with a cash prize for the winner. Everyone perks up, especially Dae, who's encouraged by Q to enter because of his amazing voice. Dae considers it since his family could use the money, and Minho eagerly volunteers to coach him, manager-performer dream team style. Kitty approaches Alex about her mom's all-time capsule, hoping it might have clues about her Korean family. Alex tells her it's off-limits since his dad is in charge of the capsules and won't make exceptions. Yuri and Juliana talk about Kitty. Juliana admits Kitty blew their cover but acknowledges it wasn't intentional. Yuri shares that living with her mom has been healing for their relationship, something Juliana later confesses was Kitty's idea all along. Kitty shares her time capsule plan with Pravina, who's game to help her pull off a heist to retrieve it. Pravina even suggests sneaking past the archives guard and sets a time for their date. Elsewhere, Jin sabotages Q by ruining his sneakers. Q calls him out, and Jin retaliates with petty insults before admitting later that he's under pressure to live up to his dad's Olympic legacy. Q relates to the pressure of living up to family expectations but doesn't excuse Jin's actions. Jin apologizes and offers to talk to their coach about what happened, surprising Q. That evening, Kitty ropes Minho into the heist because she needs someone tall to reach the high shelves. Pravina distracts the guard while Kitty and Minho sneak in. During the mission, Kitty opens up about wanting to find her mom's family, which leads to a surprising heart-to-heart with Minho. They even come up with a plan to bring their friends along for a family-style ski trip to make Minho's time with his dad less stressful. Meanwhile, Yuri gets an invite to the ski trip but hesitates when Juliana gets upset, accusing her of prioritizing Kitty. Yuri insists that Kitty isn't coming between them, but Juliana isn't convinced. The next day, Kitty and Yuri finally locate a VHS player to watch the tape from the time capsule. The video shows Kitty's mom talking about her family, and Kitty gets emotional, realizing she has a whole other side of her family she needs to find. She asks Yuri to join her in Bukchon after the ski trip to track them down, and Yuri promises to be there for her. But then, as Kitty and Yuri share a kiss, Minho walks in, catching them in the act, and that's where the episode ends. Episode 4 kicks off with Minho walking in on Kitty and Yuri kissing. Things get awkward fast as Minho throws out, "Since when do you even like Yuri? Weren't you all about Pravina yesterday?" Kitty, trying to explain, admits she's had feelings for Yuri since last semester, which is part of why she broke up with Dae. Minho isn't thrilled, muttering about how Dae almost punched him over Kitty's feelings for someone else, and now the ski weekend is off to a messy start. Later, when they're loading up for the ski trip, Pravina mentions Yuri and Juliana seem to have patched things up. Minho redirects everyone, subtly steering Kitty away from Yuri's car, trying to avoid more drama. Once they arrive, Kitty approaches Yuri, nervous and eager to talk, but Yuri brushes her off, saying it's not the right time. Meanwhile, Dae helps Eunice with her luggage, and she opens up, telling him she's not the spoiled rich girl he assumes. She lives in his neighborhood and feels misunderstood. Dae softens toward her, though the moment is brief, as Minho starts organizing the group. He announces his dad will be joining them later, and they'll ski Alpensia tomorrow. However, plans change when Minho gets a text, his dad's ditching him to spend time with his half-brother Junho, a famous artist. Frustrated and hurt, Minho vents to Stella, admitting he feels like he'll always come second to his dad's precious firstborn. Kitty is still reeling from her first kiss with Yuri, avoids hanging with the girls, and sneaks off to Q's room. She confides in him about what happened, spilling her guilt over Juliana and her confusion about liking both Yuri and Pravina. Q listens and reminds her that she wrote that letter to avoid messes like this, though now it's all spiraling out of control. Their conversation is interrupted when Jin, who is secretly staying with Q, shows up. Kitty's shocked but reluctantly agrees to keep Jin's presence under wraps, especially since Dae and Minho would flip if they found out. The next morning, a blizzard traps everyone at the house. Minho announces the bad news: roads are closed and there is no Wi-Fi or cell service. Stella tries to keep things upbeat, but tensions rise. Kitty frets about being stuck with both Yuri and Provina, especially when someone suggests the hot tub as a way to pass the time. Q and Jin hatch a plan to distract Juliana and Provina so Kitty can talk to Yuri without things getting awkward, though it's clear the situation is a ticking time bomb. In the hot tub, drama bubbles up. Day gets a shoulder massage from Eunice, which earns some teasing from the group. Kitty and Provina chat about tracking down Simon, with Provina offering to join as the self-proclaimed heist queen. Meanwhile, Juliana and Yuri steal a moment alone. Juliana finally opens up about feeling replaced by Kitty and apologizes for letting her insecurities get in the way. Yuri reassures her that no one could ever replace her, and the two make up, vowing not to let another fight ruin their relationship. Back at the house, chaos erupts when Stella stumbles across Jin, blowing his cover. Q tries to play it off, claiming Jin is stalking him, but no one's buying it. As the group deals with that drama, Yuri pulls Kitty aside. She tells Kitty their kiss was a mistake, born out of confusion and a fight with Juliana. She insists they keep it between them, warning it could ruin everything otherwise. Kitty, feeling crushed, seeks comfort from Q, who reminds her that Provina really likes her and that she should focus on her. Later, Eunice finds a love letter and mistakenly thinks Day wrote it for her. She confronts him, pouring her heart out, but Day clears up the misunderstanding. Still, he surprises her by asking her out for dinner when they're back in Seoul, leaving her thrilled. As for the love letter, it causes even more drama. Yuri finds it and confronts Kitty, thinking she wrote it about her. Juliana catches on, putting two and two together, and storms off, furious. Provina then confronts Kitty, feeling like a backup option. Kitty apologizes profusely, admitting she made a huge mistake, but Provina isn't ready to forgive. She decides to keep her distance until the trip is over. Meanwhile, Jin tries to make amends with Minho and Day, offering to let them bully him as payback for his past behavior. After some verbal jabs, they call a truce, and Jin confesses his feelings for Q. Minho, trying to cheer up Kitty, joins her in the hot tub and offers some heartfelt advice. He tells her it's okay to feel what she feels and that she'll eventually move on, just like he did with her. The episode ends with more twists. Kitty finds out Stella was snooping in Minho's office and later discovers Stella took her letter. Later, Stella shows Minho a box of things his dad kept, proving he cares more than Minho realized. Minho confesses to Stella that he once had feelings for Kitty, but it's over now and he's committed to her. Day overhears and feels betrayed, confronting Minho for making a move on Kitty. Their friendship seems shattered as Day storms off, declaring they're done. Episode 5 kicks off with Kitty reflecting on how a fun ski trip spiraled into a total disaster. Things are still tense with Provina. Yuri's dodging her and Juliana's been MIA. Kitty feels like it's all her fault. Well, mostly not her fault. Stella's definitely got some shady stuff going on, and Kitty's determined to figure it out. Meanwhile, Day tells Q about a new class combining advanced voice and entertainment management, which means he's stuck working with Minho again, which is awkward since they're still not speaking. Minho tries apologizing to Day, but Day isn't having it. Frustrated, Minho vents to Q about Day's cold shoulder, joking that the stress is ruining his skin. Q, not missing a beat, teases that a pimple patch won't fix the beef. Minho also mentions Stella found a box of his old stuff at the ski cabin to cheer him up, but he's still annoyed his dad ditched him for his half-brother, Junho. Q suggests Stella was just being a good girlfriend, but Kitty doesn't buy it. She's convinced Stella is up to no good, especially after the whole letter leaking drama. Q tries to play devil's advocate, but Kitty's set on investigating. Q tries to shift Kitty's focus by asking for help navigating the tension between Minho and Day, but Kitty's wrapped up in her drama with Yuri and Juliana. She asks Q to talk to Juliana for her, but he says she is on her own with that one. Elsewhere, Yuri notices Day's dad seems exhausted and gently calls him out for overworking himself. He begs her not to mention it to Day, but Yuri tells him anyway, worried his dad might cause an accident. Yuri wonders if she should ask her dad to adjust the work hours. Later, Kitty chases down Yuri, who is not thrilled to be confronted in public. Kitty insists she just wants to be friends again, but Yuri shuts it down. She's focused on getting Juliana back and can't hang out with Kitty, who's, well, the girl she cheated with. Speaking of Juliana, she sees Yuri with Kitty, assumes the worst, and completely shuts Yuri down, saying she's humiliated enough already. Yuri's left staring at Kitty as Juliana walks away. Minho vents to Kitty about how Day is still giving him the silent treatment. Kitty admits her own struggles. Yuri blew her off, Juliana hates her, and Stella probably wishes she had a normal roommate. She's planning to escape the chaos with a road trip to Bukchon to track down her grandma's long-lost sister. She found her cousin Ji-won on Instagram and even prepped a Korean speech for the big family moment. Minho offers to tag along as her translator because her Korean needs work if she'll help patch things up with Day. Kitty reluctantly agrees. Kitty does talk to Day, but it backfires. He's still upset with Minho for confessing his feelings for Kitty right after their breakup and sees Minho as selfish and entitled. Later, Stella acts totally chill about Kitty and Minho's road trip, but Kitty's starting to see through her perfect girlfriend act. Then Juliana shows up and bluntly tells Kitty she's not about to make her feel better about what happened, leaving Kitty to stew in her guilt. The next day, Minho and Kitty head to Bukchon. Kitty tells him she didn't follow through on convincing Day to talk to him, but Minho doesn't mind. He's just glad to get a break from Day's death glares. Stella packs sandwiches for him, which he seems happy about. Meanwhile, Yuri brainstorms ways to win Juliana back, like overnighting her favorite Icelandic yogurt. Alex suggests a grand gesture won't work. Yuri opens up about her guilt over how she treated Kitty, realizing she might have ruined that friendship too. Alex tells her that what she wants, getting Juliana back, might not be what Juliana needs. In Bukchon, Kitty and Minho's plan to approach Ji-won under the guise of an oral history project gets derailed when Ji-won mistakes them for clients of her family's matchmaking business. Kitty rolls with it, but when they finally reveal Kitty's identity, her great aunt reacts badly, kicking her out. Kitty is devastated, feeling like her family doesn't want her. Minho comforts her, reminding her of how determined and strong she is, and says she'll find a way to make things right. Back at school, Yuri tells Juliana she is given her space and promises to figure out why she made the mistake she did. Juliana doesn't respond, but it seems to make an impact. Q tries to cheer Juliana up, and they spot Stella leaving an internet cafe, acting super sketchy. Juliana is suspicious and thinks Kitty might be right about Stella's role in the letter drama. As the episode wraps up, everyone gets hit with a major bombshell. Minho's dad, Mr. Moon, is being cancelled after allegations of bullying, overworking staff, and shady reality show tactics surface online. To top it all off, Day gets a call that his dad's been in a car accident. Minho doesn't hesitate. He offers Day a ride, and the three of them rush to the hospital as the credits roll. Episode 6 opens with Day telling his dad, Mr. Kim, how relieved he is to see progress in his recovery. Even though the road ahead is long, he's already doing much better. But Mr. Kim is feeling it. He worries about not being able to walk, work, or take care of Day and his sister Bora. Day reassures him Bora is fine at their aunt's and tells him not to worry. He is even looking for a part-time job. Mr. Kim shuts that idea down fast, insisting Day focus on his studies instead. Later, Day's friend Kitty, Minho, and Q come to visit his dad. Day proudly tells them how much his dad has improved recently. Mr. Kim, meanwhile, makes Minho promise to stop Day from getting a part-time job. Minho agrees, and Mr. Kim says he is grateful Day has such a good friend. Afterward, Minho mentions to Kitty and Q that he thinks things are getting better with Day. Kitty jokes about Day tolerating Minho's presence now. The conversation shifts when Q mentions Jin is stressed about an upcoming race since his dad will be watching. Kitty suggests Q do something romantic to take Jin's mind off it, and Q is into the idea. Yuri shows up to talk to Kitty. She apologizes for shutting her out while trying to win Juliana back and says she misses their friendship. Kitty is still unsure how to move forward, narrates her confusion about Yuri, and wonders if her roommate Stella might be involved in the Moon Leaks scandal. Later, Kitty reunites with her old friend Peter, who is visiting. He hands her a bunch of letters Simon wrote to her mom, which Lara Jean found. Kitty is dying to read them, but decides to wait, wanting to focus on helping Peter plan a surprise for Lara Jean. While catching up, Peter teases Kitty about her complicated relationships, especially with Yuri, but Kitty insists there is no chance with Yuri after the way she treated her. While shopping with Peter, Minho runs into them. Kitty introduces Peter as Lara Jean's boyfriend, and Minho immediately remembers all the monologues he's heard about him. Afterward, Peter teases Kitty, saying Minho obviously still likes her, pointing out how he remembers everything she's ever said, but pretends to be annoyed. That night, Kitty finally reads Simon's letters and calls Yuri, explaining how her mom had planned a family reunion in Korea before she passed away. Kitty feels stuck, unable to connect with her great aunt or cousin Ji-won. Yuri offers to help, though Kitty isn't sure how. Meanwhile, Day asks Professor Lee about TA positions, hoping to earn some money. Unfortunately, Lee says budget cuts after the Moon League scandal mean no openings. Minho overhears and reminds Day that he promised Mr. Kim he wouldn't let Day get a job. Minho even offers to help financially, but Day refuses, though he admits he appreciates the gesture. Their conversation is interrupted by Minho's dad, Mr. Moon, who casually mentions handling the Moon League scandal. Later, Mr. Moon invites Minho and his girlfriend Stella to a Friday event where he plans to make a big announcement about the Moon Arts program. At the event Mr. Moon hosts, Minho tries to impress his dad with a thoughtful gift, and Mr. Moon seems genuinely touched for once. Later, Mr. Moon confides in Minho, admitting he regrets how distant he's been as a father. He reveals that Minho's brother Junho is in trouble. He got someone pregnant and is having panic attacks. Mr. Moon asks Minho to keep it a secret, and Minho agrees. Meanwhile, Yuri secretly reaches out to Kitty's cousin Ji-won to help mend their family issues. Thanks to Yuri's effort, Ji-won agrees to meet Kitty. Kitty is thrilled but has no idea Yuri is behind it. Jin injures his ankle. Professor Alex steps in, benching Jin and giving Q the spot. Despite winning the race, Q feels bad for Jin's injury. Kitty pieces together the truth about Stella. She discovers Stella's real name is Esther and she has a history of being bullied online after a viral video. Stella rebranded herself and, according to Kitty, is using her relationship with Minho as a cover to get revenge on Mr. Moon by leaking sensitive information. But when Kitty confronts Minho about it, he snaps, accusing her of being jealous and trying to ruin his relationship. He even admits she broke his heart before. Kitty is stunned but tries to explain she is only looking out for him. Minho isn't having it. Later, Peter reminds Kitty not to second-guess herself. He tells her her instincts, though messy, are what made her special and encourages her to trust herself. The episode ends with a shocking reveal. Stella planted a recording device in the clock that Minho gifted his dad. She secretly records Mr. Moon's confession about Junho and smiles, knowing she struck gold. Episode 7 opens with Kitty dreaming about Minho confessing that she was right all along. He admits Stella never really cared for him and that he'd been in denial about his feelings for Kitty. Just as the dream gets intense, Kitty wakes up startled by Stella barging in. Later, Q teases Kitty, insisting that her dream was a sex dream, even though Kitty adamantly denies it. Q reminds her that they've been through this before, like when she dreamed about Yuri last semester. Kitty brushes it off but admits her feelings for Minho are complicated. She regrets how things have been awkward between them since she showed him the video about Stella without having solid proof. The Cherry Blossom Ball is approaching, and Q asks Kitty if she plans to go. She's decided to go solo, but Q shares that Jin apologized and invited him. Kitty is thrilled for them. Jin even makes a sweet surprise entrance on a scooter, asking Q to the dance. Q says yes, and Kitty is happy to see her friends in a good place. Kitty reflects on her own situation. Going solo shouldn't feel this hard. She's done it before, but maybe it's because the semester is ending and she's leaving soon, or maybe it's because she can't stop thinking about Minho. She spots him across the room but watches as he invites Stella to the dance, leaving Kitty to convince herself she isn't jealous. Spoiler, she totally is. Determined to focus on something other than her messy love life, Kitty throws herself into reconnecting her family. She meets Ji-won, who shares that her Halmoni, grandmother, said Kitty's family abandoned theirs years ago. Kitty defends her Halmoni and explains the family feud but agrees to try fixing things. When Ji-won mentions her grandmother visits the market every Saturday, Kitty seizes the chance. At the market, Kitty awkwardly tries to help her great aunt pick tomatoes, but things don't go smoothly. Halmoni lashes out, accusing Kitty of humiliating her. Minho suddenly appears, giving Kitty much-needed support and vouching for her efforts. Ji-won shows Halmoni a letter proving Kitty's family had tried to make amends before. Halmoni finally breaks down, admitting her guilt over disowning her younger sister and considers reuniting with her. Meanwhile, Minho and Stella's dynamic grows more suspicious. Stella convinces Minho to get his dad to let her join the singing competition, even though she has little experience. She plays on his gratitude, but her motives seem off. Kitty, still convinced Stella is hiding something, tries to catch her in a lie at an internet cafe, but Stella flips the script, proving her alibi and making Kitty question herself. However, once Kitty leaves, Stella reveals she's not as innocent as she appears, dropping her church girl persona. At the Cherry Blossom Ball, tensions rise. Kitty admits to Q that she might have been wrong about Stella and plans to apologize to Minho, but things between them get complicated when Stella makes a dramatic entrance. Looking completely transformed, she pulls Minho onto the dance floor, leaving Kitty heartbroken. As they dance, Minho starts piecing things together. Stella's manipulative streak becomes clearer when she reminds him she has dirt on his family and even framed Kitty for the Moon League scandal. She threatens to expose his family unless he helps her become a star. Furious but trapped, Minho can't do much without risking everything. Kitty watches from afar, struggling with her feelings. She realizes she's fallen for Minho, whether a little or a lot, she isn't sure, but seeing him with Stella makes it all too real. Overwhelmed, she leaves the ball, and the episode ends with unresolved tension hanging in the air. The finale starts with Kitty reflecting on how much her life has changed in a year. She talks about how she felt out of place when she first came to Kiss, and even considered leaving on her first night. But over time, the school became her home. Her friends turned into family, and she even discovered her real family. Now, with her scholarship almost over and her time at Kiss wrapping up, she has one final thing to take care of. Kitty and her cousin Ji-won are on a call with Margot, who shares that Halabuji convinced Halmoni to approve a long overdue family reunion. Margot's now booking flights before starting her new job. Ji-won teases Kitty about getting her Kiss happy ending, especially when Minho walks by with Stella. Kitty tries to play it cool, but Ji-won presses, sensing there is more to her feelings for Minho that she is letting on. Kitty admits she's developed feelings, but insists it's too late. Ji-won encourages her, reminding her that even their grandmas managed to reconcile. Meanwhile, Q vents to Dae about Jin binge-watching Gilded Age and feeling down since he can't run anymore. Q mentions he's getting offers from D1 schools, including USC's summer track program, but he's worried about how Jin will take the news. Kitty congratulates Q and reassures him that Jin will be proud of him. Later, Stella and Minho show up at the apartment. Kitty announces the family reunion is a go, and Minho seems genuinely happy for her, but Stella gives him a look. As they leave for dinner with Minho's dad, Dae and Q notice something off about Minho. His behavior and even his skincare routine have changed. Dae thinks Stella might have something to do with it. Elsewhere, Alex hangs out with Yuri and complains about his dad being grouchy before a big concert. Yuri thinks his dad's mood has to do with lingering regrets about his failed rock star dreams. She also mentions Juliana hearting her Insta story, hinting at a possible reunion. Before the concert, Dae learns that Stella is competing and Minho has been helping her. Kitty connects the dots. Stella's been sabotaging the competition and Minho's caught in the middle. She confronts him and Minho admits that Stella is blackmailing him with dirt on Junho, threatening to ruin his dad's reputation if she doesn't win. Kitty tells him he needs to stand up to her and not let her get away with it. Together they come up with a plan. Minho and Kitty reveal Stella's blackmail to Moon, who initially hesitates but eventually supports Junho, who confesses his love for the backup dancer involved in the scandal. Kitty steps in with a plan to salvage the talent showcase. At the event, Eunice's performance is sabotaged, and Dae's music and visuals are a mess. Kitty rallies the group. Minho fixes the sound system, while everyone else steps in as Dae's backup dancers. Kitty even convinces Professor Lee, Alex's dad, to play guitar for the performance. Despite the chaos, the group pulls it together and Dae's performance is a hit. Meanwhile, Q discovers Jin has been faking his injury. Jin admits he's enjoying life without the pressure of competition and even considers giving up running to explore other passions. Q shares that he got into USC's summer program, and Jin, proud of him, supports the decision. Stella isn't thrilled to see Dae killing it on stage. She mutters something about how his friends saved him, but she is next and plans to blow the roof off the place. Her confidence doesn't last long though. Moon and his guards tell her performance is cancelled. When Stella threatens to destroy Moon's family if she doesn't get her shot, she has no idea Junho is already on stage making a big announcement. Junho tells the crowd that while his fans have always been like family, he is ready to start a real one. He proposes to Eunji right there, and she says yes. The audience goes wild, Kitty is thrilled, and Junho caps it all off with a performance that brings the house down. Afterward, Moon tells Stella she'll be on the next flight back to Ohio. He apologizes for how he's treated her in the past, admitting he's done things he isn't proud of and wants to be better. He wishes her luck and hopes she has people back home who care about her. Stella apologizes to Minho for lying and admits she actually liked him but knew his heart was never fully in it. Minho congratulates his brother, and Junho promises to work on being a better sibling. Moon announces Eunice as the winner of the showcase and reveals she'll be opening for Junho on his world tour. Dae congratulates Eunice and Kitty comforts him, reminding him that everyone has his back. Meanwhile, Yuri sees Juliana getting close to Pravina and tries to walk away, but Juliana stops her to say she still cares about her and hopes they could stay friends. Yuri agrees but is clearly upset. Dae's dad tells him he is proud, and though Dae worries about finances, his dad reassures him that a class action lawsuit against the Han group will change everything. Relieved, Dae feels hopeful again. Yuri breaks down to Alex, upset that Juliana moved on. Alex tries to comfort her but also breaks the news that her credit cards are being declined because her dad's assets have been frozen due to the lawsuit. Realizing she is broke, Yuri leans on Alex for support. Meanwhile, Minho thanks Kitty for not giving up on him, and she gets a text about Margot and Halmoni's cancelled flight for the sister reunion. Minho casually reminds her that his dad owns a private jet, and Kitty lights up, hugging him for the save. The next day, Kitty, Margot, and Halmoni reunite with Halabuji, leading to an emotional moment between the two sisters as they forgive each other after 50 years. Margot tells Kitty she has their mom's gift for bringing people together, and Kitty realizes how much Kiss has become a part of her life. 2 weeks later, Kitty finds out her heritage scholarship has been renewed, meaning she can stay at Kiss. Hugh teases her about telling Minho, hinting at their connection, but Kitty isn't sure how he feels after everything with Stella. Hugh points out towards Sculpture Garden where Minho is clearing his head before heading out on tour with his dad and brother. Kitty goes to see him and tells him she'll be back next year. Minho is happy for her but keeps things casual, saying he has to go. As they hug goodbye, Kitty hesitates, wondering if it's really over. Finally, she calls after him, asking, "Wait, can I join you?" Minho smiles, gesturing for her to come, and the season ends on this hopeful note.